We on cap?
It's lucky. I think we might switch to public. Hey, Kat, make sure the video's on private.
Yeah, it's on private.
Con.
We good?
Yeah, we good.
Con. Hey, I want to start off by saying, call Allah Yahweh Bashim Mashiach Yahushai. Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahushai. Call Allah Yahweh Bashim Mashiach Yahushai. It's your brother Shalak coming back at it with another Awards on Wednesday. Video being recorded on Tuesday due to my work schedule, but it'll be uploaded on Wednesday. Yahweh's came back at it again with a nice lesson for the nation to edify our people, always give our people understanding and hope. So today's lesson, and Salaki, I'm with my brother. Yahweh's camp. Let them introduce themselves real quick. Y'all brothers want to go ahead?
Hey, Shalom, Israel. It's your brother Aniel.
Hey, shalom to the nation of Israel. It's your brother Yahshua.
Hey, Shalom, Mr. Shalom.
And we all Yahweh's camp coming back at y'all with another lesson. Today's lesson is the title is called "The Nations Have No God. We Have Yahweh." And one thing I've been meditating, and just going over in some things is that even throughout the trials and tribulations of life, the struggles that we go through, being in Babylon, we have Yahweh at the end of the day. We have our God. We have our power. We have a Savior in the Mashiach Yahushai. And we go through a lot in this world, going through these struggles, going through these trials and tribulations. And sometimes we may feel beat down. Sometimes, we may feel saddened, depressed, anxious, going just through, like I said, the normal feelings of everyday struggles as so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Natives being in, this wicked kingdom. But one thing that I've been, maintaining in my head is, hey, we have Yahweh, and Yahweh does provide for his children. The other nations, they don't have a power. The other nations, they have false gods. They have, deities that they make themselves and carve out of wood and stone, stone and wood. And those gods have no power. We have a true living power, and his name is Yahweh. So, hopefully this won't be too long. I know brothers and sisters got jobs, families. So this lesson will be, just straight to the point. And like I said, I pray that it's edifying for the nation. So if we could start off in the books of Acts chapter 5 and 29. And then if somebody else could grab me Genesis 32 and 9. Just to harp on the fact of, certain things that we see throughout the scriptures always, throughout the scriptures, you see that Yahweh, the Most High God, Yahweh is the God of a certain people group. You don't see in the scriptures where he is being referred to as the God of every nation. We know he is the God of earth. Yes, he created everything, but who does he deal with in a, as a, you could say, a personal relationship with? Who does he say he's married unto? Who does he make his covenants with? It's only with a certain group of people. So let's get into this. And if somebody could read that, Baba Kashawatwada.
Khan, I got you. This the book of Acts, chapter 5, verse 29. It says, Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey God rather than men.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 30, the God of our fathers raised up Yahweh Shai, whom ye slew and hanged on a tree. Him have God
Con,
exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Israel and forgiveness of sins.
you see that? So there's many important details just within those couple of verses right there that lots of doctrines want to look over. Lots of, and I mean doctrines, I mean these religions that were created by men. That's the scriptures imply right there, says the God of our fathers. Again, we have to take that into basic understanding of how these things are being said. You don't say, hey, when you're with your siblings and you're talking about your father, your mother, and you say, hey, is our mother gonna cook tonight? You're not, that mother of yours with you and your sibling, that doesn't mean the whole world. That doesn't mean your next door neighbors and all that. That's something personal. So Peter and the other apostles, and we know that that Peter and the other apostles, these are Israelites. They said the God of our fathers. Why didn't them, being the apostles, being the disciples of the Mashiach, right? Why didn't they say, and how these other doctrines would like to say, and these religions and whatnot, oh, the New Testament. Well, why is it that in the New Testament, it's still personal, it's still exclusive? Our fathers. And notice how Mashiach came, died to give repentance and forgiveness of sins. It says to Israel. It doesn't say the whole world. So that's another key point that lots of people want, to overlook when it comes to these man-made religions such as Christianity and Catholicism. So if we can now grab Baba Gashah, Genesis 32, and we'll grab verse we could grab verse 42 and also Salakia 31 verse 42 and 32 and 9, because the children of Israel come from three prominent men, right? I mean, we come from prominent men all the way from Adam, but by the time you get to certain three men that are known as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who Yahweh established his covenant with. Well, let's see what it says in the book of Genesis 31 and 42, and then 32 and 9. And then after that, we'll go down to verses Salaki, we'll go to chapter 24 and 32 to just see why this thing keeps repeating, over and over again. Why this again, the phraseology is being used in this manner. So if somebody could grab that Baba shot.
You wanted the 32, 31 and 42 first, or the
Let's start in 31 and 42.
So book of Genesis chapter 31 verse 42. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac have been with me, surely thou sent me away now empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesterday.
So in this context, what's happening is Laban and Jacob are having a little back and forth. There's some contention, right? Jacob's like, look, man, I've been working all these years. You know, you're supposed to comply with your end of the bargain, but you're not. So that's what's going on when you read 31, chapter 31. But in verse 42, Jacob specifically said, except the God of my father and the God of Abraham. Now, who was Jacob's father? Isaac. And Abraham was his grandfather. And the fear of Isaac, meaning what? That same fear, that same you know, integrity and keeping the word of Yahweh and doing what Yahweh said, as Abraham did, so did Isaac. So Jacob is implying on that. And now we see that again in verse grab me chapter 32 now, Baba Kasham, verse 9.
So book of Genesis chapter 32 verse 9. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac,
Mm-hmm.
the Lord
Con.
which saith,
So like you keep going on.
the Lord which saideth unto me, return unto thy country and into thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee.
Mm-hmm. So Khan, again, see Jacob is saying what? O God of my father, Abraham, and the God of my father Isaac. Again, our, my, these are personal things. These are words that are being used in an exclusive sense. Show us in scriptures where Jacob said that his God was the God of all nations. Show us in scriptures where the disciples said that the God that they worshiped, the God of their fathers, was the God of all nations. We don't see that. This right here is personal. So now, if we can go to verse 24, and we'll read from 24 to 32, and understand again, this covenant, this pact that the Most High God made was with a certain people. This pact that he made was with certain individuals. Abraham had a family, but Abraham was picked out. Isaac had siblings. Outside of Ishmael, there were many other kids, but Isaac was picked out. Jacob had a sibling, but Jacob was picked. So there's clearly again a personal, and then not personal in the sense of like the individuals, but in the sense of just the nation of what's going on. And you have this relationship from the Most High God, Yahweh, going through these individuals, right? Going to their prodigy, their lineage, going into their seed. So let's go now into verse 24, and we'll read unto 32, and we'll see what happens to Jacob, because this is something that many other nations didn't receive. You only see this going on again through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we'll get into that right now. Babakasha and Watwada.
Gone. This is Genesis 32 and 24. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. Verse 25. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with
With
men,
who?
with God and with men, and hast prevailed.
Khan. We'll get the rest in a little bit. So, Khan, we see what's going on here. We see that Jacob here is wrestling with an angel. And we see what happens. That now, because Jacob prevailed, his name is no longer Jacob, but now Israel. And the word Israel in the Hebrew, right? Yasharallah, is prince with power, prince of power. Who's our power? Yahweh. The word God means power. So Israel is a power now. They have power from their power, the Most High God, Yahweh. These other nations, they don't have that power. Sure, they can go into their divinations, they can go into witchcraft and deal with things on the left-hand side. But at the end of the day, their power is all false. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be some negative consequence when you have to do said things like that. When in the children of Israel, all we have to do are follow the law, statutes, and commandments. Keep the stipulations that Yahweh gave to us, And guess what? He blesses us. He gives us power. We rule over the nations. We actually get to prosper. We get to be in our own homeland. That's what happens when we do what our Heavenly Father told us to do. And essentially, like with any child here on earth, you follow the orders of what your parents give you, you're going to prosper. Your parents will give you gifts. They might give you, they might extend your curfew or whatever, depending on how that goes. They might say, hey, you could stay out for this long and you could do this. Who knows? Maybe they give you an allowance. You're complying with their rules. So they're going to do what they do. And by giving you blessings, right? It's the same thing with us. You see that go happen with only the children of Israel. We have yet to see anywhere in the scriptures from the Old Testament to New Testament where these laws, statutes, and commandments were given to any other nation. They say that the Hindu religion is the oldest religion in the world. That's what they say, right? Well, how come we don't see the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh within the Hindu religion? How come we don't see the law, statutes, and commandments within the Buddhist religion? How come we don't see the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh within Kemet and all these things? You don't see that because those gods, they don't mean nothing. And Yahweh only gave his law, statutes, and commandments unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Jacob, now in this point, is no longer Jacob, but now he's Israel. Now he's a prince with power. Khan, can you raise your hand?
Con, yeah, I just wanted to make a quick point. No, that's powerful what you're going into because going into these different nations and they're different religions. That's why the Lord told us not to learn the ways of the heathen, because these heathens, when you go into their religion is completely opposite, to what the Lord, gave to the nation of Israel. Because when you look at these other nations and their religions, they serve multiple gods and idols. And then you got all type of immoral activity that happen among these nations. That's why even, when you read Leviticus chapter 18, the Lord told us not to do after the ways of Egypt, right? Because the Egyptians, they was into idolatry. When you go into their history, they was into all type of fornication and even incest and sodomy and all type of stuff, right? Getting tattoos and cutting their flesh and cutting their beards off. They was into all type of madness, right? But yeah, that wasn't on that. But yeah, that's a powerful point going into these other nations.
Khan, a powerful, mighty point from the mighty captain. Just like how he brought it out, how these other nations, they do all types of abominable things. That's why Yahweh tells the children of Israel, don't do these things. I'm your God. These are your rules. These are the stipulations and clauses of the contract that I have made with you. You break them, there's curses. You do them, there's blessings. And when you look into it, when we look at the law, statutes, and commandments that Yahweh gave to the children of Israel, all those things are beneficial to our community and as a nation. Tell me, how is it not beneficial for us to, not want to murder each other? Tell me how it's not beneficial for me to not want to go and, commit adultery, steal from my brother. Tell me. All those things are beneficial for us as a nation. That's why Yahweh gave us those rules. That's why he told us, I am your God and none else. And we're going to get into that later on. But you don't see these other nations participating in said act. You don't see the other nations receiving the same clauses and contracts that Yahweh gave unto the children of Israel. So we see in Genesis that now Jacob is now being referred to as a prince of power. And Jacob had 12 sons, and his sons are known as the Israelites, meaning they are the princes of power. And who's their power? Yahweh. And we're going to get into how Yahweh breaks things down unto us so that we can understand, get the wisdom and knowledge, and soak it up to be a better nation, to serve him in truth and sincerity, to love our people, to actually be out here and try to better ourselves as a community, as a nation. Let's get the book of Exodus now, and we'll go into chapter 2, Babkasha, and we'll start at verse 23. And by all means, any, y'all brothers want to chime in, add some things, bring out precepts, by all means, go for it. Khan.
Con, I got, you said 2 and 23.
2 and 20. And then we'll read down to 25. Because just like how
Con,
like Captain Salakia was going into, you know, the Egyptians during this time period in the book of Exodus, the Egyptians and Egypt is a top empire, right? And the Egyptians are ruling things. The children of Israel are under servitude unto the Egyptians. And yet the Egyptians weren't doing what the children of Israel were doing. Why is it that in these cases the children of Israel had to sigh and cry unto Yahweh to get out of bondage? They didn't sigh and cry unto, Horus and Seth and Tut and all them. And neither were the Egyptians calling unto their gods for the liberty of the children of Israel. Instead, with their gods, they allowed their gods practiced all types of abominable acts. Hence why the Egyptians did abominable things. But yeah, we'll get into that right now in the book Exodus. You could go ahead and read that out, Babkasha.
Con, this Exodus chapter 2 and verse 23. It says, and it came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them.
Khan, you see that? So the children of Israel were sighing and crying, says, unto God by reason of the bondage, because our people were in labor, hard bondage, hard labor, just like how our people are here. Hard labor and hard bondage. Now they let you roam free. They'll give you, a little job. Now they might give you a little passport so you could take a little vacation. Don't stay too long though, because they're gonna come and bring you back. They're gonna find you. Now they'll let you roam around the plantation, give you a little house and a car. But at the end of the day, you're still on that plantation. 200 years ago, 300 years ago, our people were in that hard labor, that hard bondage. And that's what was going on in Egypt. And understand that it says Yahweh heard their groanings. Why didn't Yahweh hear the groanings of the whole earth? You mean to tell me that during this time, only the children of Israel are going through troubles? No, many nations are going through troubles. But Yahweh didn't hear them. Yahweh heard only the children of Israel. Yahweh only respected the children of Israel. And what happened? It says, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. Again, I need all these pastors, I need all these preachers, these bishops and whatnot to show any Israelite in the scriptures where the Most High God made a covenant with other nations, where he said, yes, you're going to be my people. I'm going to give you these law, statutes, and commandments. I'm going to curse you with the curses of Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26 if you break my commandments. And I'm going to bless you if you keep them. You have to show us that. You don't see that because the covenant didn't go from, some other nation into and Abraham unto everybody else. The covenant, you don't see it go from Noah to Ham and Japheth and Shem. No, the covenant went from Noah to Shem, Shem down all the way to Abraham, from Abraham to Isaac and Jacob. Where is this covenant that he made with the other people? Where is it? You don't see it in the scriptures. And then another key detail right here, verse 25, it says, and God looked unto the children of Israel, and Yahweh had respect unto them. Many theologians and Christians, Catholics want to sit here and say that God doesn't respect anybody. Well, then what does this scripture say? He had respect unto who? Unto the children of Israel. He didn't have respect unto the Moabites. He didn't have respect unto the Philistines. He didn't have respect unto Elam. He didn't have respect unto Ishmael, Esau. He didn't have respect unto Ammon. These nations exist during this time. He didn't have respect unto the Egyptians. It says he has respect unto the children of Israel. So again, these are key details that many people want to sit here and look over and try to brush it off as if those, words are not written in the book, as if these words are just nothing. But if they were nothing, then why are they in here? And why does Yahweh emphasize over and over again that the children of Israel are his children, his people? He says that Israel is mine inheritance. It doesn't say the whole world and the whole earth. It doesn't say all nations are my inheritance. It says Israel. So we see this time and time again. And we're going to keep going to show you how Yahweh has respect unto the children of Israel, how he goes and actually gives them these rules. So now that we're in the book of Exodus, let's keep going and let's get into what they call the 10 Commandments. If you want to pull that up, Baba Kashak. And we could start off in Exodus 20, and we'll start at the top, Baba Kashak. And mind you, if you read this in the King James, at the header of Exodus 20, it says the 10 Commandments for Israel. It doesn't say the 10 Commandments for the whole earth. It doesn't say the 10 Commandments for everybody. It says 10 Commandments for Israel. So let's go ahead and we could read it from the top whenever you got it. Baba Kashaf Watawata.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 1. And the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy Elohim, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, and out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Verse 5. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I am Yahweh thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
So one of the first things Yahweh says to the children of Israel, as a rule, is thou shalt have no other gods before me. Meaning what? That these other nations can literally grab anything. I can grab this cup. These other nations will grab this cup right here and say this is their God. They can say that this great cup now, for some reason, has given them purpose to live, and that this cup is their reason on why they breathe and live and, do everything. Put the cup on a shrine, worship the cup, say the cup is a holy cup, that it's been passed down from generations to generations. How can these graven images, and not only does it say they're graven, right? It says, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. So these are graven things. The word grave, look at it. What is it? Something that's bad. Death. It's a graven image. It's a graven thing to sit up here and now I grab this cup and say, this cup is now my God, my power. There is no power within that. And these other nations do these things. They'll go and grab paper, make that their God. Literally, we have nations out here, such as the Edomites, that have made paper their God, money, because on their dollar says, in God we trust. Well, what's the God that they trust? Eliphaz, one of Esau's sons' name. His God is money. So you have these people make graven images, make graven gods that have no absolute power whatsoever. Because if your God is real, just like if they say this cup was their God, why can I grab this cup and crush it? Why can I grab this God and throw it in the trash can if I wanted to? What kind of God is that? That's how these other nations are. That's why they look foolish out here serving these false gods. And that's why it's foolish for us as the children of Israel to be serving these false gods, to be putting our whole body and soul into believing in rocks and trees. Brothers and sisters talking about speaking to the wind and that the wind carries them. That's madness, brother. The wind is the wind. So that's why Yahweh said, don't have no other gods before me. And you could make anything literally a god before Yahweh. You can make your own parents a god before Yahweh. You can make your own children a god before Yahweh. You can't do that. You have to you have to have Yahweh first and understand the order. Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, then it's you, brother. Then it's your wife and your kids. You can't put everything else above that. Because then what? Not only are you disrespecting Yahweh, you're disrupting the order and you're trying to put power in things that don't have power. I'm going to sit up here and say that this cup is now my God. That don't make no sense. What is this cup ever going to tell me? What is it going to ever give me wisdom and understanding on how to lead my people, how to be a better man, how to be better for my nation? It's foolish. Hence why you see so many cases where, like that disaster that happened in India, where you had the Elamite woman having to carry her God in the storm. You mean to tell me your God can't save itself? You mean to tell me your God's going to drown? That's madness. That's foolish behavior right there. That's why Yahweh told the children of Israel, don't have no other gods before me. Why? Because he's our God. We can pray to him. We can see that he exists. Every day that he wakes us up and gives us another opportunity, that's him telling us, look, I'm real. I'm here. Every time, he smacks us beside the head for all of our, wrongdoings, that's him telling us, I'm here. Every time he blesses us for us doing the right things, that's him telling us, hey, I'm here. When we receive visions, when we, see certain things that happen in our lives, that's Yahweh telling us he exists. We see that also not in just this sense, but you see it all the time you read this book. All the prophecies that have been fulfilled, all the prophecies that are happening right now in present time, is letting us know he exists. And that's what Yahweh means. He exists. That's what his name means. But for our people to sit up here and want to, believe on false ideologies, such as believing in rocks and chakras, you got to be a fool. I've never seen a rock ever give anybody any understanding. I've never seen a tree speak to a person before. I've never seen, hell, people who worship animals. I've never seen the animals tell those people how to better themselves in their nation. So that's why Yahweh said something. Khan, Brother Aniel, you go ahead.
Khan, yeah, I just had a precept to piggyback off what you're saying.
Khan.
Khan, so I'm gonna go to the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, I'm gonna give it a little quick context. So we'll start at 11. Um, so this is
So,
Wisdom of Solomon 13 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
Just for context,
hey,
we're talking about it.
Salaki, real quick. Hey, that's the spirit, because I was just finna pour that. But I was hey, you mind starting at verse 10, because verse 10 code too,
Uh,
going into what the brother teaching about. Hey, that's the spirit, because I was just finna pour that Wisdom of Solomon 13 and 10.
all praises to the Most High. All right, so we'll start at 10, like the captain requested. So there's 13 and 10, Wisdom of Solomon. But miserable are they, and in dead things is their hope, who call them gods, which are the works of men's hands, gold and silver, to show art in, and resemblances of beast, or a stone good for nothing, the work of an ancient hand. Going down to verse 11. Now a carpenter that fell a timber after he sawn down a tree, meet for the purpose, and taken off all the bark skillfully round about, and hath wrought it handsomely, and made a vessel thereof, fit for the service of a man's life. And after spending the refuse of his work to dress his meat, hath filled himself, and taking the very refuse among those which serve to no use, being a crooked piece of wood and full of knots, have carved it diligently, and we had nothing else to do, and formed it by the skill of his understanding, and fashioned it to the image of a man. I'm gonna drop down to Salakia, to uh, verse 17 as well. So again, this is still talking about the carpenter and those who have worked those vile things. Verse 17, then maketh he prayer for his goods, for his wife and children, and is not ashamed to speak to that which have no life. Verse 18, for health he calleth upon that which is weak, for life he prayeth to that which is dead, for aid humbly beseecheth that which hath least means to help, and for a good journey he asketh of that which cannot set a foot forward. So just to piggyback on what the brother was saying, this is a clear example in the wisdom of Solomon, where you have people who have put their trust, their faith, their worship into these vain things that have no life, they have no breath, they have nothing that can actually help and provide that brother assistance or protection or direction in life. But yet it's showing clearly here the vanities in which men will subject themselves to. So just to support what the brother was saying.
Khan, hey, that's powerful and that's mighty. And something that I just want to look up real quick, the definition in the Bible, right? Or just the definition of the word graven. When you look it up, it means to engrave an inscription or image on a surface, um, to be carved. So that's what these engraven images are. They're made by hand. They're carved out. They can also be inscripted upon, or it's an image. It means to also fix something, because when you engrave, you're also fixing it. That's what the word means. So it's literal manual work on making your deity. And that makes no sense. How am I a mere human gonna make my God? That makes no sense. My God is supposed to have power over me and was supposed to have created me, not the other way around. And yet you'll see these people, and matter of fact, that's a powerful precept, because I was just thinking how that ties into with Jeremiah 10 and 1, and I'll read that real quick. In Jeremiah 10 and 1, it says, hear ye the word which Yahweh speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the ways of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. All the stuff that they do is vain. Engraving, their gods, making beasts and jewelry, money, all that stuff as their God is vain. There is no, there's no purpose in it. It says, "For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." And that's what these graven images are. That's what these idols are. They can't speak, they can't hear, they can't move. That's why they always made in a material that would be typically, hard, because they have to be upright. If I'm an idol maker or whatever, I'm not gonna make something out of just flimsy plastic. No, they want to make their idols stand upright because it can't move on its own. And look what it says: "Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." These idols, these false gods, they can't speak, they can't hear, they can't do nothing. They can't do good, they can't do evil. They're nothing. They're just pieces of wood, pieces of stone, pieces of jewelry that people go and bow down unto, that people will go and put shrines upon, that they'll go and dedicate altars, put food. You'll have whole countries with legitimate starvation going on, and yet they would rather put their food towards that, you know, idol, as opposed to saying, let's give this food to the people that are starving, the people in need. That's foolishness. That's backwards. Asinine is the proper word. It doesn't make sense. That's how you know that these people, they will never get the true understanding of Yahweh. And that's how you know they don't have the covenant that Yahweh made with the children of Israel. Because how am I going to be seeing my people starving, and yet we decide to say, hey, guys, no, we're going to take all the food that we have and dedicate it unto this the thing that doesn't do nothing. But yet we still have innocent kids out here starving. We got innocent people out here homeless, and we're taking all the resources, taking food and water to give it to a picture, to put it up there, to put the food in front of a statue, believing that that statue is actually going to one day do something. That's madness right there. And we can also, since I'm right here in Jeremiah, I'm gonna grab if somebody want to grab, or I'll grab it since I'm right here in Jeremiah. I'll grab verses 14 and 15 with that. And it says in the same chapter, "Every man is brutish in his knowledge," just like how it was read in the Wisdom of Solomon. He makes it and he fastens it to what? To his knowledge, to his understanding. Jeremiah 10 and 14 says, "Every man is brutish in his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, and the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish." Meaning that, like I said, somebody can come up, grab this cup, and say this cup is now their God. Well, what if I want to crush your cup? What if I want to grab this cup, stomp it out? You mean to tell me your God can't protect itself? And that's what happens to a lot of these statues and, these false gods and their time of their visitation. That's not just for the statues and the false idols. That's also for the people too. Hoping and waiting for and believing on idols, you will perish sitting there thinking that you're actually going to receive something. But that's twofold. Like I said, it goes into the idols too. What would have happened if that Elamite lady would have left her damn statue? You mean to tell me your statue would have drowned? Your statue would have broken to pieces? That's what would have happened, because your gods can't move. There, it says right here, they are vanity and the work of error. It's error. It's wrong. You screwed up. Error. It says they are vanity, meaning that they have nothing to offer. That is why Yahweh told the children of Israel, hey, don't do this. Don't follow the ways of the heathens. Don't do their customs. I'm your God. These other nations, they want to go and partake in having 50,000 idols, and yet not a single idol actually resolves their problems. How long have so-called Arabic Ishmaelite people been praying to that stone, and yet the people of Ishmael still getting bombed by Edomites all the time? How long have our people, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives, been praying to this wooden cross, believing on this white supremacist doctrine known as Christianity, looking at SIBO and praying unto that image, and yet we're still at the bottom? Our people then decide to say, nope, you know what? Christianity is not the way, brother. Let's go into Islam. How many of our people, so-called blacks, Hispanics, natives, are into the Muslim religion, and yet it has not benefited us? You go and bow down into a rock, and that rock has done nothing at all. But instead, what that rock has done is continue the plight of our people. How many brothers and sisters are Christians and Muslims bowing down to these idols, and yet we still end up being incarcerated at a mass rate? We still have the highest number of police brutality. We're still at the bottom of society. These idols haven't done anything for us. All they've done is actually further our affliction, because we're supposed to be turning unto Yahweh, the living God, our true power, not rocks, not stones, not wood. How many of our people do these things, but yet they can't have an answer as to why we're still in the conditions that we're in? They can't have an answer as to why we're still at the bottom. They can never answer as to why their son or their daughter or somebody that they cared about was killed by the police, or why they get fired first, why they get hired last, why they can never have enough, to eat. But yeah, you want to bow down over and over again unto a stone. You want to bow down over and over again until this wooden cross, into a SIBO, a graven image. These things don't have no power. These things are vain. These things that they make themselves out of the workmen, those are the gods of the other nations. But they have no real God. Those are false gods. And that's why the title of this video is The Nations Have No Gods. We have Yahweh. So now I want to go back unto Deuteronomy. We'll go to 7 and 6, because just like how we were reading in Exodus, how Yahweh had respect unto the children of Israel in Exodus 2, let's see how Yahweh feels about the children of Israel. And let's see if he feels like this towards everybody that was there. Let's see if he felt like this towards the Egyptians. So if somebody want to that, Baba Kashaw.
Salaki, you want Deuteronomy what?
7 and 6. Baba Kashaw. Conan, when you got it, Ak, you could read.
Khan, all praise. All right, Khan, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Most High thy Elohim. The Most High thy Elohim hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
You see that? And the header, when you read that part, in the King James says, God has chosen Israel. And that's how the Most High feels towards the children of Israel. A holy people, a set apart people, to be special. How are we special? Because we actually have a true living God. That's why when we do what he tells us to do, the other nations are supposed to look at us and say, that's a wise and understanding people. Because then they will look at us and go, wow, they actually have a God. They actually have a real power. Meanwhile, we're over here praying to the wall, 50,000 times to the wall, asking for food and drinks because we're broke and the wall hasn't done nothing for us. But meanwhile, we see the children of Israel, they're actually doing good. They're prospering. They're keeping the commandments, and their God told them if they keep the commandments, they will prosper. Or just like how we flip it with in the book of Judith, where they know that if we sin, they know that Yahweh is not going to be with us. They understand that. That is why nowadays they keep us in sin. That is now why nowadays they feed us so many idols. Everything now just thrown in your face. Just worship this, worship celebrities, worship actors, your favorite, worship all these rappers, worship athletes. Kids don't know the name of Yahweh. Kids don't know the name of Yahweh Shai. Our people don't know the names of our forefathers, but they got 15 posters of Michael Jordan and LeBron James in their room. They got 50 pictures of Kobe Bryant up against the wall. 35 different jerseys of Michael Vick. Worshiping these men, worshiping these women. Everything has now been thrown in our face to be an idol unto us, so that we spend our time worshiping them instead of the Most High God Yahweh. That is why we have to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. And what was the first thing he gave us? He said, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." You can't make these mere men and mere women to be your God over you. Wake up first thing in the morning and you watching Tracy McGrady highlights. As soon as you get up, sitting there all day, T-Mac, T-Mac. Don't do nothing else. Don't read the scriptures. Don't teach your kids about the Bible. It's just basketball. It's just football, baseball, sports all day. You make the sports become their gods. Or you have all these celebrities become their gods. It's a shame that our daughters, I don't have kids, but the daughters of Israel, they don't know about Sarah. They don't know about Judith. They don't know about the righteous women in this book, but they know everything about Glorilla. They know everything about a Sexy Red. They know everything about a Cardi B and a Megan Thee Stallion. That's a shame, because our people have put these celebrities as their gods, worship them instead. That's a shame. So that's why we're supposed to follow Yahweh, and we be a special people unto Yahweh, doing what we're supposed to do. Granted, we're always going to be his chosen, but he wants us to do what he told us to do. And when we do the said things, look at what happens. It says that we're supposed to be above all people that are upon the face of the earth. And we still are, in a sense, how we can physically dominate a lot of these nations in these sports, how we can outperform them in, our jobs, how we can innovate so many things. So yes, we do so many things, but yet statistically, financially, economically, socially, we're still at the bottom. And yet, even in our low state, everybody wants to be like the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native man. Even in our low state, all these other nations want to copy after what we do. Even at our bottom state now, they still want to come out and cleave unto our culture, unto what we do. Culture in quotations, because this is not our culture. For us to be out here drilling on each other, for us to have our women parading their bodies, for us to be out here sending our kids to these schools that the schools teach all types of homosexuality. That's not our culture. Our culture is this book right here. But even in our low state, in Babylon and across the world, all nations still try to copy us. That's because we're a special people. That's because Yahweh is the living God. He said it, that we will be a special people. So that's the respect that the Most High has unto us. That even in our low state, a lot of us still wake up, and a lot of us still get a chance to repent. That a lot of us still can get the chance to turn to him. When, honestly speaking, he could have just finished us all off, wiped us all off, said, "I'm done with y'all." But instead, he remembers his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He remembers that, hey, Israel is my chosen seed, that they are a special people, that he had respect unto Israel. And that's what you see going on. And even at the bottom of society, at the bottom of the totem pole, all these other nations still want to copy us. All these other nations still want to do what we do. And understand something too. They want to do what we do when it comes to all of the bad stuff essentially, and how we are now. Because once we start coming back to these law, statutes, commandments, now that's when things will want to be, a sticky situation. Let all the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives stop going to the grocery store and eating pork. Watch how America will flip out. What's going on? The black, Hispanic, and native community are no longer eating pork. They're no longer killing each other. Now we can't profit off them. We can't profit off them from the unclean foods. We can't profit off them from them murdering each other. We can't profit off them from now degrading their women and selling drugs. We can't profit off them from, from having this mindset of idol worship. How many brothers and sisters do we know are lined up every time one of these name brand clothes come out, and our brothers and sisters be out here spending bags, spending tons of money on these name brand clothes because our people want to feel special. They want to feel special in society. Idol worshiping these men and these women with name brands so we can try to feel special. But the Most High already told us that we're special. And the only way we can understand that is that if we actually pick this book up and read it and see that, hey, we're not supposed to be worshiping these other gods. We're not supposed to be making anything else our God. We need to make Yahweh be our God. Yahweh is our God. So, Khan, since we're still Salakia in Deuteronomy, let's jump to Deuteronomy 14:2, Baba Kashah. And again, any y'all brothers want to chime in, by all means.
Con, I got it. This Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 2. It says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth."
Mm-hmm. You see that? Again, it's reinstating the same thing. Being a holy people, a set apart people, to be chosen as peculiar, special. These are the things that we're supposed to be doing. These are the conditions in which we're supposed to be when we have Yahweh be our God. And in having Yahweh be our God, guess what? All the others, laws, statutes, and commandments come right after that. Because then you'd understand, well, guess what? Now I can't let my brother be in sin. I have to tell him. Now I can't bear grudges unto my brother. I got to forgive him. Now I can't, want to, again, steal from my brother. Now, if I see my brother in help in need, I got to help him out. And that comes with having Yahweh as our God. Not Sibo, not the Muslim religion and the Kaaba stone, not Buddha, not Krishna, because all those other false gods have done nothing for our people, but continue to destroy us. Our people, hell, we murder each other at an alarming rate because of the mentality we have in some of these religions, because of how these religions are portrayed unto us. Why is it that every time in the Catholic Church, Christian Church, they got so-called, white men, the Edomites, being portrayed as our people? And if they're portraying the greatest man who walked on earth, which is the Amashiach Yahushai, then what does that make us think of them as a whole? That they must be God's chosen, that they can't be touched. Hence why a lot of us don't retaliate for the brutalities and things that they've done. But when we look at each other, we now want to just up the heat on each other like it's nothing. That's what's happened when we follow after these other gods. It destroys our brain. It changes our mindset. And having Yahweh as your God, you start to understand your people. You understand your God first. You understand what he has as the rules and regulations, and you start to understand your people. Then you start to have compassion on your people. You're not going to be a pushover, no, but you're going to have compassion. You're going to have mercy on your people. You're going to have grace for your brother. You're going to have love for your brother. But that doesn't happen when you're out here in the Muslim religion. How many Muslims are out there in Chicago and they still kill each other? How many Muslims are out here in all these big cities and yet these brothers are still killing each other, but they Muslim? That doesn't make sense. That's because those false gods, they don't have rules. That's because those false gods, they don't tell them to do good. All those false gods do is absolutely nothing. And because they don't do nothing, each man just wanders off into his own understanding. And he says, well, look, Allah gonna have to understand me. And nigga, and he went and he took my money. I gotta up the heat on him. No. When you have Yahweh as your God, then you understand the situation. Hey man, that brother took my money. Maybe he really needed it. Let me reach out to the brother. And if you do it according to the law, hey, that brother got to give you your money back. You don't kill him for it. He got to give you your money back plus interest. But you go and actually say, look, brother, why'd you do that? Let's have a conversation. Why'd you do that? You could have just asked me, hey, can I borrow some money? Situation would be handled differently. But yet, when we go into these false religions, we don't have that understanding. All we have is hatred for each other. All we have is an evil eye towards each other. So now, since we're in 14, let's grab Salakia, not 14. Let's grab Deuteronomy 32 and 9, Babkashah. Because as we're going into it, how these false gods, they're vain, they're made by men, they have no power. Let's see what the Most High God Yahweh says.
Come. This is Deuteronomy 32 and 9. For Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance.
No, it don't say that. It says the whole world is his inheritance.
Jacob is the lot of his inheritance.
You see that? Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. And when you go to the verse up, and I'll read it, it says, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. The Most High gave everybody their spot. He gave everybody their, allotted areas. And with that, giving them their allotted areas, he gave them their deities, these false gods. He said, yeah, you're going to worship Krishna. You're going to worship Buddha. You'll worship Allah. You'll worship elephants. But it says, but what? But Israel, right? Verse 9, for the Lord's portion is his people, which is Israel. And it says Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. So everybody gets their own piece. Everybody gets to worship their false gods. But when it comes to the children of Israel, Yahweh is that God. Yahweh is the power of that nation. So again, this is for our edification. This is for our understanding. And this is for the other people too. Read that and tell me and explain to me, how does that mean that now he's for the whole world? Read that and explain to me on how that means that now everybody's just opened up and available into the covenants that he's strictly made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Explain that. We could, again, read this and try using things in a similar matter that we see on a day-to-day here. You make a contract with a or with a contractor, you need him to do a job in your house or whatever. That doesn't mean your next door neighbor could just barge in and now partake in that contract. That contract is between y'all. Just because what? Let's say you weren't home that day. Now all of a sudden your neighbor could come to your house and say, hey, look, I get a part of it too. That doesn't make sense. Just like how it doesn't make sense how all these other nations can now just participate in the contract that the Most High made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when he says that the nations are divided and he gave them their portions, right? But the portion of Yahweh is Jacob. Matter of fact, Micah, in the book of Micah 5 and 4, that's a great precept on this. 5 and 4 or 4 and 5? Look, if you could pull it up real quick. I think it's 5 and 4. Can you read it out?
That gather thyself in troops.
Khan, no, I got it. It's verse 4 and 5, Salakia. Khan. So it's Micah chapter 4, verse 5. And it
Khan.
says, for all people will walk everyone in the name of his God. And we, this is Micah, an Israelite, says, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. See that? Every nation, they have their own God. Those are false gods, however. But we have Yahweh. That's who our God is. So when you go back to Deuteronomy 32 and 9, that's what that's implying. That's what that's telling you right there. He divided the nations, set it up to where they had their bounds and their gods, false gods. But verse 9, for the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. But Yahweh is the God of Israel. Now we can get further examples on this and some more verses. Let's go now to Isaiah 44 and 1. Because now we'll see how the Most High God speaks on said matters. I mean, we're already seeing how he speaks on said matters. But here, as they say now, how people double down, here he double downs. He lets you know there's no other God with him. He is uncomparable. You can't compare no other God to him. He is the supreme being. So we'll read chapter 44, verse 1 down to verse 8. Baba Kasha.
Khan. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 44, verse 1. Yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. Thus said the Most High, that made thee and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant, and thou, Jeshurun, whom I have chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 3. For I will pour water upon him that is thirsty, and floods upon the dry ground. I will pour my spirit upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thine offspring. And they shall spring up as among the grass, as willows by the watercourses. Verse 5. One shall say, I am the Lord's, and the other shall call himself by the name of Jacob. And another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Most High, and surname himself by the name of Israel.
Khan Salakia, real quick. Right there, right? So we see that again, Jacob is the servant of Yahweh, right? And notice how in verse 5, one shall say, I am the Lord's, and another shall call himself by the name of Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Lord, and surname himself by the name of Israel. That's what you see going on now with the children of Israel. We're waking up. We're going back to our roots. We're going back to our culture. We're going back to our God. And when it says, and surname himself, that's us now claiming our names and our tribes again. That's us saying, I'm no longer Christian Rodriguez. I'm now Shalak Banshami Wan. I'm not Jamal no more. Now I'm brother this. That's us going back to our heritage. You could keep reading on that.
Verse 6. Thus saith the Most High, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no Elohim. Verse 7. And who, as I shall call, and shall declare it, and set it in order for me, since I appointed the ancient people, and the things that are coming and shall come, let them show unto them. Verse 8. Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time that I have declared it? Ye are even my witnesses. Is there a God beside me? Yea, there is no God. I know not any.
Khan, you see that? That's the Most High giving, telling us his incomparability. You can't compare no other God beside him. He's the first and the last. The Most High himself also says in another verse that he killeth and woundeth. He maketh alive and heals. No other gods are doing that. No other no idols are out here doing that. These statues can't kill. These statues can't heal. These statues can't wound, give life, but the Most High God Yahweh does. And then when you go down into verse 9, look what it says. They that make a graven image are all of them vanity, and their delectable things shall not profit, and they are their own witnesses. They see not, nor know that they may be ashamed. Who hath formed a God, or molten a graven image that is profitable for nothing? Behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed, and the workmen, they are of men. Let them be gathered together, let them stand up. Yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. The smith with the tongs both worketh in the coals, and fashioneth it with hammers, and worketh it with the strength of his arms. He is hungry, and his strength faileth. He drinketh no water, and is faint. You see that? So you got these men out here busting their tails, hungry, thirsty, trying to sit up here and erect a 50-foot statue, make a 50-foot statue, and call that their God. And yet they're hungry and thirsty. I thought, according to the scriptures, that the Most High takes care of his children, that they shall have no need when they do what they're supposed to. Yet you mean to tell me that you're gonna be thirsty, you out here drinking, no drink, no food, because you spending hours and hours upon your days and your life trying to build a statue so you can bow down unto that statue? That's madness. And look what it says, and their delectable things shall not profit. Just like how I was going into how you have some of these nations that would literally put food in front of the altar at these statues' feet. Meanwhile, they have people actually dying of starvation. Those delectable things are not profiting because those guys, they can't smell those foods. Yahweh, he could smell the foods that we make. He enjoys the smells of the sacrifices that we're doing. So again, those delectable things, they're not profitable. You got people out here legit starving. And yet these nations, nope, let me go and put all these resources onto this statue. And then it says what? Behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed, and the workmen they are of men. Let them all be gathered together. Let them stand up. Yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. Why are they all ashamed together? Because none of those gods and idols are actually doing anything and benefiting them. That's why they're ashamed. Let a strong gust of wind come over and knock it down and break it into pieces. Now what? They're ashamed. Your God fell and broke. That makes no sense. Your God fell over because of a thunderstorm, and your God broke into pieces. That's foolishness and that's madness. That's wicked. That's vain right there. And then if you keep going down, it talks about the idols of wood. How you have now these gods that are made out of wood too. Well, guess what? Wood is flammable. You mean to tell me your God caught on fire? Wood can rot. You mean to tell me your God rotted? These are the vain things of men out here making with their hands. That's why these nations, they don't have a true God, because their gods are literally nothing. Now let's go to Isaiah 45 and verse 4 and 5.
This Isaiah 45 and verse 4. It says, "For Jacob my servant's sake,
Mm-hmm.
and Israel mine elect, I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me." Verse 5, it says, "I am the Lord, and there is none else.
Mm-hmm.
There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me."
Khan, you see that? And again, Yahweh is saying Jacob is his servant. Israel is his elect. It's not saying the whole world. It's not saying all nations are elected. It's not saying he's the God of all these nations. He said, and then you read 5, he says, I am Yahweh, and there is none else. There are no other gods out there that can compete and do what Yahweh does. There are no gods out here that can actually offer a sacrifice without a lamb, to be a sacrifice without blemish. That was his son, to give repentance unto his people. There are no gods that are out here actually doing that can cause mass floods, shake the earth up, that can actually out here cause fire to fall from heaven. There are no gods that are going to do that. The only God that does that is Yahweh. So again, he doubles down and tells you, I'm him. Essentially, the saying that we have today, saying I'm him, that's Yahweh. Saying I'm him. There are no gods out here that does what he does. Again, the same in that, using this cup. Somebody out here on this planet will grab this cup and say this cup is their God, that this cup is everything unto them, and put a shrine and an altar unto that cup, put into the delectable things unto the cup. But it doesn't profit them. This cup will never give them an answer. The cup will never do anything unto them. It won't kill them. It won't heal them. It won't bless them. It won't curse them. It won't give them good advice. It won't give them wisdom. It won't give them truth. It won't give them nothing, because it's vain. And that's how these nations are. They're vain, following after these idols. And it's vain for us to try to go and do what these other nations are doing. And I'll jump over now to chapter 46, and I'll read verse 9 and 10. And again, Yahweh is doing the same thing, telling you over and over again that there is no other God beside him. Chapter 46 and verse 9. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. You see that? Yahweh does everything unto his pleasure. If he felt like putting a certain person at a high status, he'll do that because it was his pleasure. And if he wants to take that same person in high status and bring him all the way down unto death, he'll do it because it's his pleasure. There are no other gods doing that. Declaring the end from the beginning. Show me the cobblestone declaring the end from the beginning. Show me the image of Sibo talking about what's going on in the book of Revelations. Show me the statue of Buddha actually going into the seven-headed dragon. Show me the statues of Krishna talking about how America's Babylon and how America will inevitably fall in World War III. None of these gods can do that. Only Yahweh does, and only he can. And it says, and from ancient times, the things that are not yet done. This book is over 4,000 years old, and yet it goes into America by detail. The type of arrogancy this country would have, the bloodshed this country would have, hell, the type of weaponry this country will have, nuclear capabilities. What other God does that? Who does that? Nobody. What idol does that? None at all. Only the Most High God does that. And he uses his servants, Israel, to write those things down. Salakia, to write those things down from the former age, so that now, come 2025, brothers and sisters can open this book up and go, oh my God, this is what it's talking about. I'm living in this right now. That's what's happening. And yet our people want to sit out here and again follow after a cobblestone, follow after trees and rocks when they go into comedic science. Brother, how is a tree and a rock and you listening to river streams gonna do anything for you? Brother sitting out here talking about the river stream speaks to him, saying that the river has given him wisdom and understanding. It's a river, brother. It has aquatic life in it. You go there, you might swim in it, you might get some food out of the river. That's it. That's the purpose of the river, brother. The river's not speaking to you. You got people out here believing in astrology and astronomy and all that. I talked to one of my bosses about it the other day. He a Jake, and we getting into it, and we're not getting into it, but I just told him, how you gonna sit here and believe in a ball of gas that is gonna sit here and try to determine your patterns? I told him, show me the FBI trying to catch a serial killer based off zodiac signs. Khan, go ahead.
Khan, I had one more precept.
Khan.
Going back to the wisdom of Solomon. It's actually that same chapter. That's crazy. So let me share it real quick. All right, Khan. So this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13 from the top. Again, just piggyback off what you're saying.
Khan.
It says, surely vain are all men by nature, who are ignorant of God, and could not out of the good things that are seen know him that is. Neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the workmaster. So just like the brother is going into, you have brothers who rather worship a river, rather worship a tree, the creation over the creator. It says, verse 2, but deem either fire or wind or the swift air or the circle of the stars or the violent water or the lights of heaven to be the God which governed the world. So again, just like the brother saying, there's people who rather go into astrology, go into observations of the heavens, the lights, the stars, the moons, the sun, over again worshiping the creator. It says, verse 3, with whose beauty, if they being delighted, took them to be gods, let them know how much better the Most High of them is. For the first author of beauty hath created them. So I'm just end it right there. But again, just piggybacking on what the brother said, people rather get more infatuated by the creation and ask for health, ask for guidance, protection, direction from the creation over the creator. That's just backwards.
Khan, hey, that's a powerful point. Um, you know, that's how our people are. I remember one time I was getting Elder Benjamite, and I had to turn around on the brother. I had to turn around on him because I wanted to laugh in his face, but I didn't want to be rude. But the brother was telling me he believes that the sun is God. You know, he was telling me all these wild theories he had, and he said, I believe the sun is God. Granted, I couldn't go too deep into it with him because we were at work, but to hear something so ridiculous, the sun is God. Khan, go ahead.
No, Khan, I was gonna let you finish. Go ahead.
Oh, Khan. Yeah, a ball of gas is God. All it does is just give light during the day. That sun doesn't tell you what to do. Sure, we as people of color, benefit from the sun and make us darker, give us vitamin D, and make us healthy, make our skin beautiful. We get energy from it. Sure, but that was its purpose, and to tell time. That sun is never gonna be an actual, a guidance counselor unto us to give us wisdom and understanding. That sun doesn't have counsel like Yahweh, where Yahweh in the book of Kings, we read that he really has full counsel on how to take out a certain person. And he got the host up there, the angels, and they're politicking on what's going to happen. That sun is not doing that. It's just a ball of gas. And like how I was talking to my other brother at my job. And he talking about, oh, yeah, the stars this. I said, brother, show me the FBI, any, police trying to catch somebody based off balls of gas. That makes zero sense to sit up here and try to dictate your lifestyle based on a ball of gas.
Hey,
It
Salakia.
backwards. What'd you say? I
Hey, Salakia. Hey, if you think the sun is God and you think rivers talk to you, you smoking that good stuff.
Oh, hey, Khan, look, he a Benjamin, so he always be smoking.
Hey, look, I noticed the people that be smoking and that be taking shrooms, they be having the weirdest doctrines.
Khan, look, like I said, I didn't want to be rude and laugh in the brother's face. I had to turn around. The brother believes that a meteor crashed into the earth, and that's what caused civilization. That humans came out of the meteor. And I
Yeah,
was like,
they be off them.
yeah, I'm
Yeah, they
like,
be off them shrooms. That's them shrooms, man. You talking to rivers? That's them shrooms you on.
you know, I'm like, come on, brother. Humans came out of a meteor. The meteor smacked the earth, and that's how life came to be. Two rocks collided. I was like, come on, brother. That's madness. You got your hand up on you.
Khan. Yeah, brother, if I may, just to continue again, piggybacking off what you said, it's
Uh,
powerful, brother, it up. But I want to just kind of continue with that verse because just like that brother you were saying, who's his admiration and his fascination with the sun, and deeming that to be God, these verses are speaking on brothers like him and people who do the same type of thing. It says in verse 4, it says, but if they were astonished at the power, at their power and virtue, let them understand by them how much mightier he is that made them. So again, it's like you have people who are seeing these things that the Most High created and is giving this honor, this glory, this praise to the creation, but the whole they're missing the whole aspect. Again, it's going down here. If we drop down to verse 6, It says, but yet for this, they are the less to be blamed, for they peradventure err, seeking the Most High and desirous to find him. For being conversant in his works, they search him diligently. So again, you're looking for, you have this zeal to worship something in this earth that you see, that you can interact with, and however vain way that you're choosing, but you're missing the whole point of it all. You're missing the fact that you yourself are a creation as well, and that even though you might have the zeal to find the Most High, you're missing the mark. Again, it says in verse 7, being conversant in his works, they search him diligently and believe their sight, because the things are beautiful that are seen. Howbeit neither they are to be pardoned. For if they were able, and this is the killer, and I'm gonna stop here. For if they were able to know so much that they could aim at the world, how did they not sooner find out the Most High thereof? If you have all this knowledge and information of these creations, you know how a river flows, you know what's in the river, you know how to interact, you know everything about the solar system, you know what's going on with the sun. You see these creations. How do you not acknowledge the one who created them?
Khan, Khan, hey, that's a powerful point. Y'all brothers are making powerful points right here. And yeah, these verses are just spot on, because and it ties into with that in Romans, where it talks about they worship the creations more than the creator. And that's essentially what all this is. When our people go and start following after these other nations, because these other nations, they worship creations that literally they make, or that the Most High made. They worship these creations. But for our people, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives, we have to analyze all this and actually say, no, there's something that made this. There's a higher being. And that higher being, his name is Yahweh. I'm gonna, if somebody want to grab Psalms 96 and 5 real quick. And Ania, how much time do we have left? Babkasha.
Salaki, I'm looking right now.
Time.
I think we've been going for about an hour and a half.
We got like another hour and a half left.
No, Salaki, we've been going
No.
for an hour and a half.
Oh, con. Okay. Then
Yeah, we got like 15, 20 minutes left.
okay, Con. I got a couple of more verses. I mean, I got a lot more verses, but we'll just get through a couple of them. That way we don't exceed the time limit. Con. So if somebody want to grab Psalms 96 and 5. Babkasha.
Con, I got you. This the book of Psalm, chapter. Oh, he pulling it up. Con, this the book of Psalm, chapter 96, verse 5. It says, for all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens.
Mm-hmm. See that? The gods of the other nations are idols. They're nothing. But it was Yahweh who made the heavens. It was Yahweh who made the star, the sun, the rivers, the creatures that we see. One thing I'm fascinated in is looking at, the underworld beneath us. And I'm not saying like in the mythological hell. I'm talking about with the bugs. I would look at these creatures and say, wow, Yahweh is real. You see how these bugs interact with each other, how they literally have whole ecosystems going on, how you see how wildlife does its thing and function. You can't sit up here and just say, oh, that just happened out of sheer coincidence. No, a higher being made these things to function that way. That's Yahweh. No statue, no idol is gonna sit up here and create a whole ecosystem in the way that these bugs will maneuver, how these arachnids, interact with these bugs, and how certain colonies and how certain, into subspecies will move and have war within other. You don't see that going on. That's not happening because of an idol. The sun didn't create that. The stars didn't do that. That's Yahweh. Look at how the animals interact. Look at the ecosystems and the environment of animals. That didn't just happen out of sheer coincidence. That happened because the Most High set it up that way. But our people are more fascinated in actually worshiping these things. There's somebody out here with again, into the Kemetic science and Kemet, and they got beetles and they worshiping beetles. I like looking at the beetles, seeing how they move. I study, see what they do, and guess what? I give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh because that beetle is moving in the way how Yahweh created it to be. Not because the sun made it that way, but you'll have people out here worshiping the creations more than the creator. And that powerful verse, them powerful verses in Wisdom of Solomon go spot on into detail. And in Psalms 96, how it says, all the gods of the nations are idols. They're nothing. They're vain. Matter of fact, I'm gonna grab real quick. I'm gonna go back to Deuteronomy 32, and I'm gonna read verse 16 and 17, because this is what our people are doing nowadays. And it says, they provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils. Now, what does the word devil mean? Deceivers. It's a deception to be sitting up here sacrificing and worshiping a stone that does not talk to you. It says, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. How do you have new gods? That don't make no sense. You mean to tell me there's old gods and new gods that newly came up? You know what that means? That means that those gods don't exist, that those idols are nothing. Again, boom, here's a newly god of somebody right here. This cup. Somebody grab this cup right now, and this is a new god. And somebody will sacrifice unto this and do all types of abominations unto this. And in the name of that cup. That is what you have out here within our people nowadays, too. Sacrificing, doing all types of abominable, evil things unto gods that they want to make up, making themselves gods. That's madness. Let me grab now real quick Hosea 8 and 4. And then after Hosea 8 and 4, we'll jump into 1 Kings 18. Whoever got it can read it. Bakashantwada.
Salafi. It's the book of Hosea, chapter 8, verse 4. They have set up kings, but not by me. They have made princes, and I knew it not. Of their silver and their gold have they made them idols, that they may be cut off.
You see that? And that's what our people are doing. Sacrificing unto newly gods, raising up princes, raising up kings, making new gods that the Most High didn't elect. Tell me, just like how I was speaking about earlier with all these celebrities and all these people that our people worship and idolize, who set them up? Where was the grand committee of so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Natives, and they grabbed all these, athletes, celebrities, church leaders, and said, let's have a vote on these people? No, they were set up by certain individuals to keep our people persuaded, to have our people worship them, to have our people idolize them, to have our people still be duped in madness, to provoking Yahweh unto anger by sacrificing unto the devils. That's what's happened. And that's what our people continue to do, which is why we got to come out here and tell our people to repent. That is why we got to tell our people you actually have to read this book, and we need to show you how you worship your true God, not the star, not the sun, not a whale that you saw. You can't worship those things. Those things are vain. They have nothing for you. But Yahweh has everything. And I'll grab real quick in 1 Kings 18. And I'll read, I'll start off in verse 26, and I'll grab a couple of verses. And this is when the prophets of Baal and Elijah were going at it to see whose God is real, Baal or Yahweh. So I'm going to just get into it real quick. I know we don't have much time left, so I'll get through it as fast as I can. And this, 1 Kings 18, and I'll start at verse 26. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awakened. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lances till the blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice, nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. So you got these prophets literally cutting themselves, so-called prophets, right? Cutting themselves, doing abominations, right? Because that's an abomination to cut yourself to where your blood is gushing out. They're doing evil acts, calling unto this false god. And Elijah mocked them because he knows his God, the God of his nation, is the real God. And let's keep on going. And Elijah said unto all the people, Come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him. And he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of Yahweh. And he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, Do it the second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, Do it the third time. And they did it the third time. And the water ran round about the altar. And he filled the trench also with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, The Lord, he is the God. The Lord, he is the God. And Elijah said unto them, Take the prophets of Baal, and let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon, and slew them there. So you see what happened in this situation. We had these false prophets with a false God, cutting themselves, calling on a God that was not real, an idol. And what happened? What did Elijah do at first? He mocked them. Told him maybe your God needs to be wakened up. Maybe he's journeying. Maybe he's talking. And what happened? They continued to do what they were doing, the shucking and jiving, going crazy. And guess what? Nothing happened. But when Elijah went up there, knowing and confidently he went up there, knowing because he knows our God is the real God. He knows Yahweh is real. He is our power. Did what Yahweh said to do, and guess what happened? Yahweh showed himself. Fire came down, and that's what caused our people to see that. And that's sometimes the problem with the children of Israel. We're always a visual people. We want to see all these great signs and things. That's why Yahweh Shai said that about a wicked generation, always looking for signs and wonders. The signs and wonders are every day when you wake up. Right there, what you see going on in your life, those are the signs and wonders. What you see going on around the world, those are the signs and wonders that Yahweh exists. But no, our people, they want to see DC and Marvel type activity. They want to see people out there doing kamehamehas to believe that the Most High God, Yahweh, exists. And that right there is madness. So they rather take unto going after things that they can see. Oh, I see the sun. I see the river. I see these animals, so I'll worship them. And that's false and that's vain. Now, I'm gonna grab Isaiah 40 real quick. Or if somebody want to grab that, Baba Kasha, and we'll read we'll start at 15, 40 and 15. And whoever got it can read it. And we'll go from 15 to we'll do Salakia. Let's not do 15. Let's start at 19 until verse 24. Baba Kasha Thwada.
Cons, the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 19. The workman melted a graven image, and the goldsmith spreaded it over with gold, and casteth silver chains. Verse 20. He that is so impoverished, he that is so impoverished that he hath no oblation, chooseth a tree that will not rot. He seeketh unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image that shall not be moved. Verse 21. Have ye not known? Have ye not heard? Hath it not been told from you? Hath it not been told you from the beginning? Have ye not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. Verse 23, that bringeth the princes to nothing. He maketh the judges of the earth as vanity. Yea, they shall not be planted. Yea, they shall not be sown. Yea, their stock shall not take root in the earth. And he shall also blow upon them, and they shall wither, and the whirlwind shall take them away as stubble.
Khan, you see that? So again, these idols, they can't compare unto Yahweh. It says that whereas the inhabitants, us, the humans, that's literally everybody, the inhabitants of the earth, all races, right? It says whereas grasshoppers. How many times are you going through the park with your family, or you go out in your front yard, or you just out and see grass? Are you gonna notice a grasshopper? You ain't gonna notice it, not unless you're looking for it. But no, you go to the park with your family, you out there playing football with your kids, you're not noticing grasshoppers. That's how we are unto the Most High. And then it says that he stretches out the heavens as a curtain. So every time you see the weather, you know, going crazy, the earth getting shaken up, that's Yahweh doing that. That's not Krishna. That's not Shiva. That's not none of these pagan gods. That's none of these idols. That's Yahweh doing all that. And if somebody could grab me Second Ezra 6 and Salakia. No, let me get Ecclesiastes 2 and 4. Salakia. Ecclesiasticus 2 and 4. So Now, like, as we understand that all these nations have no God, and we have God, which is Yahweh, right? A true power. We have to also understand that, hey, there's going to be a point in time in our lives that as we're going on in this walk, that we're going to go through these trials and tribulations. But don't be afraid, don't fret. Continue in the walk because we have a true power. Be afraid if you're out here worshiping Baal. Be afraid if you're out here worshiping Seba. Go be in all types of discouragement if you're out here worshiping the cobblestone. But let's see what the scripture says when we act Yahweh. So whenever you got
Said, what's that sign, right? 2 and
Khan,
4.
Khan.
All right, Con. This Sirach chapter 2, verse 4, it says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 5, it says, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity.
Khan. So yeah, when we're going through things in life, understand that, take it patiently, accept it, because in the end, we pass through these trials. Yahweh is going to look out for us. Again, in the heat of the moment, in the midst of it, it may be a lot of turmoil, mentally, physically, spiritually, a lot of turmoil going on. But one thing we have to remember is that we do have a power. We do have a God, and his name is Yahweh. And as long as we continue on in this walk, as long as we continue to strive and do what we do and trying every day our best to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments, the Most High is going to look out and he will provide and take care. And that situation will pass over. And again, you don't have to be discouraged because your God is a true living God. Let me get now Psalms 39 and 7. These are going to be my last two precepts for the night. So Psalms 39 and 7 and 71 and 5.
Said 39 and 7.
Come, 39 and 7.
This the book of Psalm, chapter 39, verse 7. It says, and now, Lord, what wait I for? My hope is in thee.
Mm-hmm.
Deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish.
So our hope is in Yahweh. Why would King David be writing these things if the God that we worship wasn't real? Why would he write these things if the God we worship, Yahweh, wasn't a true living power? He wrote these things down because he knew that our power is real. He wrote these things down also to say what his hope is in Yahweh. It wasn't in his kingdom of being the king and to have all his, officers and security around him. It wasn't in his weaponry. It wasn't in his riches. It wasn't in his politics and governing bodies. His hope was in Yahweh. And this is King David. He's at the height of social status, being the king. And guess what? His hope was in Yahweh. In his distress, his hope was in Yahweh. And he said, deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish. And that's what we don't want, to be the reproach of the foolish. When we're out here saying we worship suns and stars. Where we say we want to sit up here and look at the river and pray to rivers and water and pray to statues, because those things are foolish and vain. Our hope has to be within Yahweh, because we understand he is a true living God. And now if we could go to verse 71, verse 5, and this will be my last precept. Count, I could get it. Psalm 71, verse 5. For thou art my hope, O Lord God. Thou art my trust from my youth. By thee have I been holden up from the womb. Thou art he that took me out of my mother's bowels. My praise shall be continually of thee. I am as a wonder unto many, but thou art my strong refuge. Let my mouth be filled with thy praise, and with thy honor all the day. Khan. So our hope has to be in Yahweh. Yahweh formed us. Yahweh knew us before we were formed. And just like how King David said, that he was holding up from the womb, and it was Yahweh that took him out his mother's bowels. Understand, King David was a mighty man, knew that his hope in. King David knew his living power. King David understood and his living power, which is Yahweh. And that's what we got to do. Worship our living power. Put our hope and our faith in our living power, because he is a true living God. Not these idols. These idols don't bring creation. Instead, they have to be created. And that's, again, asinine, very backwards. And we should, like King David, have our mouth be filled with praise and with honor all the day, no matter what we're going through, the struggles or at the top. Praise Yahweh no matter what, because he is the true living God. He is our God, and we should be praising him every day for that. So with that, I'm your brother Shalak. I pray that this video is edifying for the nation. I say thwada to all you brothers for coming on tonight, bringing out mighty precepts, mighty points. Thwada Yahweh Shai. Call Allah Yahweh Bashem Mashiach Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Call Allah Yahweh Bashem Mashiach Yahweh Shai. Thwada to everybody. I pray that when y'all see this, it edifies and, just keeps our spirit up and gives our people who are coming into this hope and understanding that all these other gods and all these other false ideologies, they mean nothing. Yahweh is our true living God. Follow him, have hope and faith in him, do what he says, because he is the real living power. He kills and maketh alive, not statues, not balls of gas, not rivers. We have to worship the creator more than the creation. And with that, my time is up. Your brother Shalak, Shalom.